Welcome. So today we're diving into a really mind-bending framework. It's one that connects, of all things, a famous equation from quantum physics with a deep spiritual understanding of the human soul. We're going to explore this wild idea that maybe, just maybe, the universe and our own journey within it operate on the exact same code.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at this idea of a hidden cosmic code. Then, we'll get into the duality of existence, followed by what this framework calls the soul's spiritual mass. And finally, we'll see the two big outcomes it all leads to: annihilation or ascension.
And this is really the big question at the heart of everything we're talking about today. It's asking us to stretch our minds a bit and consider if physics isn't just about describing the material world, but could actually be a blueprint for the metaphysical world too.
Now this slide gets right to the core thesis. The idea here is pretty profound. It's saying that quantum mechanics and tafsir, which is a really deep, layered way of interpreting the Qur'an, aren't just kind of similar. No, the argument is that they're what's called spiritual isomorphs. They're describing the very same reality, just using different languages, one with math, the other with mercy.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We need to understand the physics that kind of sets the stage for this whole analogy. What exactly is this famous equation, and what did it uncover about the way our universe is built?
So the amazing thing about Paul Dirac's equation is that it did more than just describe the electron. The math itself demanded that the electron have a twin, an opposite counterpart, an anti-electron, which we now know as a positron. This idea of a fundamental, necessary duality in everything physical, that is the key. And the source material argues this isn't some random quirk of physics, it's a mirror of creation itself.
And that leads us right into the core duality. This is where the magic happens, where we start to map those physical laws directly onto spiritual ideas. We're shifting from the language of quantum mechanics to the language of mercy.
So the framework kicks off with this incredible parallel. You've got this 20th century scientific breakthrough, the discovery of particle duality, and it's seen as a perfect echo of a much older statement from the Qur'an, that everything was created in balanced pairs. This isn't treated as a coincidence, but more like a signature, a sign of a single author. And here's where it gets really specific. This is the mapping. The electron, the particle of physical matter, is compared to the nafs, our ego, our self, which the sources link to fire and pride. And its opposite, the antiparticle? Well, that's the Rooh, the spirit, a divine command associated with light and purity. And the origin story for this split? It's symbolized by the moment Iblis, out of pride, refused to bow to Adam, fracturing a once unified consciousness.
So here's the bottom line. Our life, this existence we're in right now, is the testing ground. It's the four-dimensional field where these two opposing forces, the pull towards the self and the ego, and the call towards the spirit and order, constantly interact. They collide, and they ultimately define our spiritual journey.
Okay, now let's see how this whole thing builds into an even more direct physical analogy. We're talking about the concept of spiritual weight, or mass, a weight that's determined by which one of those two forces you choose to align with.
In this framework, your spiritual alignment isn't just some fuzzy, abstract concept. It has a real, tangible mass. Every action, every attachment that pulls you away from the spirit, the Rooh, literally adds to this spiritual mass, making your soul heavier, more tied to this world.
So then, the goal of the entire spiritual journey is to become massless, to transform that heavy mass of your deeds into pure light energy. And how do you do that? Well, it's through the catalyst of what the framework calls prophetic light, which is this powerful combination of the right knowledge and the right action. It acts just like the speed of light squared in the spiritual version of E equals mc squared. And look, this idea is directly anchored in Scripture, which literally talks about a day of judgment where your deeds are physically weighed on scales. Having a light scale doesn't mean you didn't do anything. It means your deeds lack density. They've been transformed. They're aligned with light.
So you could almost picture it like this, right? On one side, you have a soul that's heavy, just weighed down by its attachments and its misalignments. Its mass is pulling it down. And on the other side, a soul that's light. Its mass has been converted. It's ready for what's next, ready for ascension. One is bound by the fire of the ego. The other is free in the light of the spirit.
Okay, so all of this brings us to the two possible outcomes of this grand cosmic equation. You see, just like when a particle and an antiparticle meet and resolve in a flash of pure energy, the soul's journey has its own final, definitive resolution, and it's all based on its final state.
And this just lays it all out perfectly. These are the two endpoints.
If your soul achieves that state of masslessness, it ascends. It returns to its origin as pure, stabilized light. That's the state of return. But if its spiritual mass just keeps increasing, becoming infinitely dense with deviation from the path, it collapses into a self-consuming fire, and that is annihilation.
So really, the whole system describes a clear, almost procedural path for the soul's ultimate journey. It's not random at all. It's a process. You align with the divine code that lightens the weight of your actions, and that, in turn, prepares your soul for its final ascent.
So, if there's one thing to take away from this, it's the direct, almost mathematical relationship being presented here. It's a connection between your spiritual alignment and your spiritual destiny. In this framework, the Qur'an isn't just a book of rules, it's the actual operating manual for reducing your soul's spiritual mass.
And this might be the most crucial shift in perspective. The stories inside aren't presented as some ancient history lesson. They're presented as a live, active operating code for your life right here, right now. The fall, the remembering, the submission, and the rising, it's a cycle that's happening inside of you.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole framework suggests you aren't just a passive observer watching some cosmic drama unfold. You are an active participant. Your choices, your alignments, your actions, every single one is a line of code being written into the story of your own soul. The only question is, what is your code compiling into?